right, so this sandwich went kind of sort of viral about a year ago or so, and you know what they say, better late than never. I'm usually like kind of late on the trends because I wait to see what actually sticks, you know what I mean? Now, we're gonna make today that pizza dough sandwich. Does anyone remember seeing that online? Yeah. It's so good. It's basically you make pizza dough, or you buy pizza dough at the grocery store if you want to, and then you just form it into like kind of like a folded little clamshell situation, bake it off, and stuff it with everything you could ever want. So today, I am going to show you how you can make your own pizza dough, but again, you don't have to. You can just get it at the little, you know that little cold section where they got the bags of pizza dough? That'll be perfect as well. Now, to make your own, if you're feeling a little adventurous, it's super simple to do. It just takes a little bit of time, but like inactive time. The first thing you need is about 3.5 cups of bread flour. Now, I'm using bread flour because bread flour has a really nice gluten content in it, so it gives you a really nice chewy pizza dough. It changes it from being a little kind of bready to that delicious kind of stretchy chew that you love about pizza. Now, I'm using my stand mixer, but you can totally make this by hand if you want to. Just add 3.5 cups of that bread flour into a bowl. If all you have is all-purpose, plain all-purpose flour, honestly, that'll work as well. You just won't have the same chew, but you'll still end up with something that is like pizza-ish. All right, so yeah, pizza-ish, that's what I'm just gonna call the sandwich pizza-ish sandwich. All right, now into there, I'm gonna go in with some yeast, because pizza dough is a yeast-risen dough as opposed to being risen with like baking powder or something like that. So for that, I need 2.25 teaspoons of instant dry yeast. Now, if you only have regular dry yeast, you can use that, but instant is great because you can just mix it right into your dry ingredients. Now, if you're not someone who buys your yeast in like a jar like I do, this is just one of those little sachets. They come in like strips of 3, pop one in there, and you are good to go. Now, to give that yeast something to start to eat once you wake it up, I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of sugar. If you wanted to do something other than sugar, you could do honey. You'd mix that in with the wet ingredients, but sugar gives that yeast something to munch on. Basically, that yeast that we just put in is asleep. Someone put it to sleep, it's doing its thing, it's hanging out, and we're gonna wake it up with some warm water in a second, and it was gonna be hungry. I don't know about you, but like the first thing I do when I wake up, coffee, eating. That's all I wanna do. I'm useless until I've had like my oatmeal or my toast or my eggs, so there you go. Now into there to season the dough, I'm going in with 1 teaspoon of salt. A lot of people will tell you that salt kills yeast. It doesn't kill it, it just kind of slows it dough. Like it just like, hold your horses, buddy. You're gonna be delicious. We're gonna give you some time. All right, I'm just gonna mix this up. Now I like to hold my, my dough hook in my hand, kind of like Captain Hook would, and give it a little bit of a mix. Just until you can't really see those little bits of yeast anymore. Then I'm gonna make a little bit of a well right in the center. Essentially, when you're making a well in something, whether you're making cake or cookie dough or anything like that, what you're doing is kind of making a bowl out of the wet ingredients. So the wet ingredients touch more of the dry ingredients, so it doesn't clump up as much. Makes it easier to mix everything together. So into there, I'm gonna go in with some warm water, which I don't think I have. I'm gonna go look in the fridge. I'm gonna go look in the fridge for some cold water. Because fun fact, this guy, he doesn't work. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go in with cold water, but if you wanted to, you wouldn't want to use the hot water there. So you want about 1/3 of a cup of warm water. Just tap warm is perfect. Do we have enough? Oh my gosh, perfect. And a little bit left over for me, so we're good to go. Delicious. Now, you want to use warm water if you can. Cold water technically will actually work. It will eventually wake that yeast up. Warm water just wakes it up nicely. It's the difference between having your comforter ripped off of you to wake you up in the morning or just getting up cozy and slow with your house coat on. So I'm going to go in with that water. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of oil. Now, oil's gonna give a little more texture, really nice flavor in. Just about 2 tablespoons of some olive oil going right on in is gonna be absolutely beautiful. 2 tablespoons looks like more than it is, but don't worry, this is about 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna call that 2 tablespoons. Okay, now what you wanna do is grab your dough hook or your wooden spoon if you're doing it by hand and give it a little bit of a mix just until a shaggy dough forms. This might get a little bit sloppy, but let it do its thing because you don't want this dough to be too dry. Once it kind of looks like this, kind of like a dog's breakfast, attach that dough hook or turn it out, and you wanna knead that for about, I'd say 5 to 6 minutes, just until it's stretchy and totally delicious. Now, lucky for me, I already have some done right here. This is what happens. You set it aside for about an hour to an hour and a half, and you end up with a very exciting bunch of dough. All right, now we get to do my my very favorite thing in the world when it comes to making dough. This is why I like making my own pizza dough. I get to do a dough punch. So what you gotta do is get your fist ready. And then you just punch it, shall we? Let's do this thing. 1, 2, 3. Oh, what a thrill. What a thrill. And then you give yourself a thumbs up because it was a fun time. All right, now that one had an excellent bubble in it. So you never know. Sometimes it makes a funny sound. It's a hoot. It's a great thing. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna turn this dough out, and I wanna divide it into 4. If I was making like a big pizza, I would just use this as is and make that pizza, stretch it out and do its thing. But when you're doing these pizza dough sandwiches, you almost want them to be personal pan pizza kind of size. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this into 4 equal-ish pieces. I'm using a bench scraper, but a knife would work perfectly here as well. And then what you wanna do is you wanna form those into some nice kind of tight-skinned balls. This is gonna help you with the second rise that we're gonna let it do. So give it a little bit of a chop. And then what I want you to do is just kind of bring the corners or edges into the center of that dough, just so it looks kind of like a little funny little dumpling. Flip it over, and then with your hand almost like a claw, kind of go like this. This is gonna tighten up that skin and make it nice and perfect and a nice little round ball, okay? So do that with all 4 of your pieces of dough. Pop those covered just on a back counter just for about a half an hour, just to rest and rise a little bit. And you're gonna end up with something that looks like this. Like absolutely beautiful. That's all that yeast doing its job. So now what I want you to do is actually form these into basically little pizzas. So grab one of your balls of dough. It's nice and airy, and just give it a flatten out. Try to leave a little bit of a crust about 1 centimeter around the edge, but just kind of like how my grandpa told me you're supposed to turn a corner with the steering wheel. Spoiler alert, anyone under 16, this is not how you're supposed to turn. Just kind of make it into a nice, beautiful circle. And by leaving this at room temperature, it makes it a lot easier to work with. If you are using store-bought pizza dough, it will be cold if you keep it in the fridge. So just let it sit out for about a half an hour, just until it's a little warmer, because it's gonna be easier to work with and stretch. All right. Now this guy has a little bit of a skin on him, so these wouldn't be here, but that's totally okay. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush the surface of that with just a little bit of oil. So if I wanted to make individual pizzas, I would just pop this in an oven, top it, do its thing. But we wanna fold this over so it almost makes like a clamshell. So I'm just drizzling that water right over, or not water, that's oil. I got water on the mind, it's fine. And then I'm just gonna fold this over, almost making like a little kind of clamshell situation. I'm gonna pop this over here, and then what I would do is continue doing that with the rest of those balls of dough. But I wanna talk about baking this baby. So when you're making this, you want a hot, hot, hot heat in your oven. Now I'm also using a pizza stone. You can use a pizza stone, or you can use a cast iron kind of griddle. That would be perfect. And what I've done is I've actually put it in the oven, and I've heated the oven to 500 degrees, smoking hot on the bottom. Now if you don't have that, feel free to just use a sheet pan, but pop it in for about 10 minutes before you're gonna add the pizza dough, because you want it to be nice and hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, wait, so you can see better. I'm gonna just scooch this out. And then all I need to do is transfer this right onto there. You could use the lifter, or you can do what I'm doing and be very careful, and just pop that right on. That's gonna start baking that bottom crust immediately. Slide that in. That should only take about 8 to 10 minutes to bake. Now, as you can see, these look excellent. Now, these are a little bit doughier than the ones you'd see online, but I like a kind of chewy, doughy pizza dough situation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna just use a spatula to take these off of this cast iron kind of pizza peel. Now, as opposed to taking this whole pan out, I actually like leaving it in there to cool down with the oven, because that baby is a smoking hot, and I don't wanna deal with figuring out a place to put that, because no dice, no dice. All right, those are looking absolutely beautiful. Just gonna pop that back on in to cool and let it do its thing. And now we're going to turn these little kind of sort of like clamshelly guys into some delicious sandwiches. Now, this is where you get to put whatever you want in here. You want a meatball sub? Pop it in. You want like just a bologna sandwich? Put it in this, it'll be delicious. But we're gonna go a little fancy today. I'm gonna start off with the one that I feel like was the one that was trending online. It was kind of like a mortadella, pistachio, hot honey kind of situation. So we've got all that going on over here. I'm gonna grab one of these little guys, and it is pillowy, it is delicious, and you just kind of want to open it up. It's almost like a taco shell, kind of like a hot dog bun, something like that, but it's made of pizza dough. What a delight. So for that one, I have got some mortadella here. Mortadella is really, really nice. It's ham. There's those kind of big chunks of fat in it, so it's delicious and moorish and wonderful. So I'm just gonna grab those and kind of just shove them on in however you want. This is kind of the version of the one of this type of sandwich that Aaron had a couple years ago. We were in Rome, and it was the biggest thing I've ever seen anyone order. I truly think it was the size of this sheet pan. Did he eat it all? Yes. Did we go home after because he was too full? Also yes. All right, so that's looking beautiful. Now into there, I'm gonna scatter on some delicious chopped pistachios. Again, a good fatty nut with total deliciousness in there. That's gonna be totally wonderful. Little bit of some hot honey or regular honey right on in. If you've got your fave hot honey, feel free to do that. A little drizzle. And then last but not least, every pizza needs a little bit of cheese. Yes, this is cold filling, but it's gonna be totally delish. I've got some pecorino here. You could also use some Parmesan. I'm just gonna do some big kind of shavings. They're gonna fall off and I'm just gonna stuff them in there. You want those big hunks of that beautiful pecorino right scattered all into that delicious sandwich. You could pop some arugula on there, whatever you're feeling. But that to me looks like a pretty delicious sandwich. I'm feeling good about it. All right, now you could also do really whatever sort of toppings you want. So I'm gonna switch things up from the kind of classic mortadella pecorino situation, and I'm gonna do a really nice kind of veg forward situation. Now for this one, we're going in with some sun-dried tomatoes, because I love a sun-dried tomato. They're kind of like umami, they're a little meaty. First thing I'm gonna put in though is a bit of arugula, something kind of to give me a bit of base, a little bit of pepperiness. Pop that on in. Then I'm gonna go in with some fresh basil. I love fresh basil. You always wanna use this almost as close to eating it as possible, because as basil heats up, it gets a little bit brown. I'm just gonna pop whole leaves right on in there. Then we're going in with some sun-dried tomatoes. This one is my favorite one. I'm very excited about it. Get ready for the cheese, y'all, because it's gonna be absolutely out of control. For the cheese, we're going in with everyone's current fave. We're going in with some burrata. And if you've never had burrata, it's basically fresh mozzarella that's wrapped around more fresh mozzarella that has a delicious cream inside. So you bring this over, we're gonna just tear it open. See that? Oh, just kind of spread that. We're getting some excited sounds from the audience. Am I gonna eat this? Yes, it's gonna be a feat. All right, now onto there also, just for a bit of freshness, some lemon zest. This is what I call Mary Berg put everything she wants into a pizza dough sandwich. A little bit of lemon zest right on top for some freshness. Maybe a little bit of crunchy salt on there, some sea salt, my fave. This one's the Newfoundland Salt Company. It's so, so good. And then obviously some chilies because I like things spicy. Pop that on there too. A little bit of oil. Guys, I'm going big. I am not going home. This is what we're doing. All right, okay, I was gonna cut it, but I think I'm just gonna try. Okay, are we ready? Let's go in. 1, 2, 3. That is so good. You have to make this, whether you use store-bought pizza dough or try making this one yourself, you're gonna absolutely love it. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.